and welcome to the KT Podcast, where we talk the ins and outs of Star Wars. I'm your host, Chaos.
And I'm your other host, Tristan.
And welcome to the first podcast that we're going to be doing, and we're going to be talking about Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. This is going to be, I think we'll do a couple of minutes of non-spoiler review in case you guys haven't seen it, although why not? That's my question, but we'll do a couple minutes without it, and then we'll give you full spoiler warning. So first, Tristan, what did you think of it?
I liked it. It's the first Star Wars movie that's made me feel conflicted, though.
Oh, okay. We'll obviously dive that more when we get to the spoiler part. I thoroughly enjoyed it too. I thought it was one of the better ones out of the three. But again, I still left with some questions. Like, I didn't leave the theater going, what now, or what's going on? Like, I left going, I'm pretty satisfied with how it ended, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know some people didn't even want to see it because they didn't even want to see it, and even I had a coworker that said, I don't ever want to see that piece of garbage dumpster fire, is what he said, and he hadn't even seen any of the trailers or anything. And it was all based on Last Jedi, which, from my understanding, is this weekend was the lowest out of the three for opening weekend.
Which makes sense, I think.
Yeah, concern of how... I mean, I liked Last Jedi, and, I mean, we know Last Jedi is your favorite of all time, so...
I'm not silent about that one.
No, and I know you aren't. So it's... I think I can see why people would think that, but it also, I think, redeemed a little bit about it. To a degree, I also think it made Last Jedi a bit better.
It did. It made me appreciate it even just a little bit more than I already did.
Yeah, and we'll now. So without further ado, I think we will get into the spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, either pause this one, save it for later, or just exit out completely, and then come back when we've decided that we're going to. When you decide to see it. So, spoilers coming in 3, 2, 1. So, we're going to be talking now about...
Reylo,
yes. I love how you just spurt that out. Yeah, the things we liked about the movie. We took some time, we sat down and we wrote things that we liked about it and what we didn't like about it. So, I think on a positive note, we'll just go through the stuff that we did like about first. And then if we want to add some stuff as we go on, then we can do that. So, Tristan, why don't we go with you first? What was the first point that you had that you liked about it?
The first major one was Lando's introduction, because
yeah, I had that too.
Billy D is a prince.
Yeah, I guessed his reveal when the guy said, "Come follow me," and I was like, that's Lando. Like that's Lando. It has to be. And then of course the helmet off and. I looked at you and your face is,
I didn't expect to see him that early.
No, I didn't either. But, I mean, like, I wish we could see more of Lando. Lando was, in the original, he only came for near the end of 5, and then 6, he was in most of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that you leave Lando out all the way until relatively the end, and then he has, 5-10 minutes of screen time.
Though he did do a lot in that time.
Yeah, he did, he obviously helped Chewbacca get the all the different fleets, and I thought it was a cool little thing, especially that fleet entrance.
Oh man, I can talk for a fair bit about what that means.
Exactly, and just his smile, the way he came in was just absolutely perfect.
Just classic.
It was.
His driver was hilarious, and I need to see more of that species too. Oh man! So funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of, I noticed, funny moments where they really nailed the comedy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, with C-3PO and his memory loss, just reliving the old classes, going to R2. I'm C-3PO, and R2's thinking, what is wrong with you? I've known you for years.
Decades, nearly half a century.
Yeah, and it's just oh, no, I don't remember you at all. And I thought it was really funny because the right on point is like, you are not going to do that to my head. And not a second later, he's got the thing plugged into his brain.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's brilliantly done. And the whole Red Eyes thing, like when we saw the trailer, and it's like, oh, what does this mean? Is C-3PO going evil now? No, it was really good on how it was set for, he's now reading the Sith. Because, I mean, the fact is that the Sith were... from what I understand is Palpatine made it illegal for anyone to read Sith.
I think that was the New Republic Senate, actually.
Was it the New Republic?
It seems like that would have been something they did.
Because it could also have been something that Palpatine would do.
Senate, so it could be Imperial, but my guess is it's more likely to be New Republic.
Yeah, and I can see it being Palpatine because then he's the only one that has things to it.
Yeah, and organized religion was just about completely outlawed by the Empire, so it does make sense for both of them, really. Or it could even be like the Old Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Really, just saying outlawed by the Senate leaves it up for anyone to guess.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, just before the cave scene is one of my favorite ground vehicles of this entire trilogy.
Oh yes, the speeders.
Oh man, those bikes are so cool.
I just it's brilliantly done, and then of course when they take off and use the jetpacks,
it's so obviously for selling toys, and I love it because that is just the core of Star Wars. Is just this would make a great toy, and just even the design and the fact that they have shielding, it's just amazing. The whole scene with them is awesome. With the whole they fly now, even though that doesn't quite make so much sense, it's still
yeah,
it's an amazing.
They fly now. They fly.
Great section.
Oh yeah, and it shows that our heroes, instead of just fire and shooting, they actually have to be creative.
Yeah, there's an ability to adapt and.
Yeah, and Finn and Poe, working together. I love seeing those two on this at the same time. Throwing the rope and it goes inside it, and it's like, oh yeah, now make a turn.
The screams as they're going, it's just. Wow.
Oh yeah, no, it was.
You almost feel bad for them.
Oh no, I thought it was really good, and then even Poe just hot wiring the car. It's like, wait, when did you know what to do? It's like, now is not the time.
Yeah, that whole festival, Pisana, I think it was called, that planet. I really liked that whole segment. It was so nice.
And it's a little Easter egg what C-3PO says. The festival happens every 42 years. And this is the 42nd year for Star Wars.
Dude.
I thought that was clever.
That is clever. Oh, wow. That's cool. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, no, I thought about it after. It's like, whoa, that's been on for 42 years.
Yeah.
So, so we got Lando's reveal, and like we said with the ship entrance, that was probably one of my key moments. Like even I had to be told to settle down when that ship, because it reminded me of obviously earlier with Endgame being the final thing, and I think that's what. I think Rise of Skywalker and Endgame had very, very good similarities with each other.
And this is the best way to end a story, is to have everyone come together. That is the definitive best one. We see it in The Lord of the Rings. You have Rohan, Gondor, you have the hobbits, a few elves, you've got everybody together. The eagles at the end. Everybody comes together for the greater good to stop the evil that will destroy everything.
Yeah, and like with Endgame, our heroes are battling our best against the villain. They're getting defeated. They're getting outnumbered. And even though at the very end, Captain America, he's down. He's got his broken shield, but he's willing to stand and fight until the bitter.
Steve Rogers.
Fight till the bitter end, and then it's just on your left. And I felt that the same way. Poe is just feeling defeated. He's watching all around. All his comrades are dying.
Specifically Snap.
Snap,
which we'll
yes.
talk about later.
Yeah. And then, of course, all of a sudden you hear, hang in there, kid. And right away Poe is thinking, he's done it. Lando's come back. And then the ship
look
reveal.
up and The camera, it's way more than we thought. That's easily like 10 times more ships than
like the trailer with the Millennium Falcon and all the picture. I love that they still added that into the film.
It looked like a big fleet. We didn't think it would be that big.
Yeah, and I love the responses. Like, when did the rebels get a full, or when the Resistance get a full massive army? And the response was, it's not an army. It's just everybody.
It's just people, which ties in perfectly to the conclusion of the Poe Dameron comic. At the end, when Poe saves Black Squadron, and before he tells them about what happened on Crate and everything like that, he says, pretty much, I'm paraphrasing, because it's been about a year or so since it came out, we're not going to win this war by having just a handful of heroes do all the work. We're going to win this war by having everyone stand up together. And that just, especially that line of it just being people, was perfect.
Yeah, it seems like Poe had this trilogy had like some of the best lines, like even in the Last Jedi, saying this is going to be the spark that lights the Resistance,
lights the fire that will restore the Republic or burn the First Order down.
Yeah, and something like that. It's been what 6 months since I've last seen it. Last May the 4th. So
since you saw the Last Jedi, it's been a few weeks.
Yeah,
because again, it's my favorite.
Exactly. I probably should rewatch it again because and that's the thing. Like, we had Episode 7 introduce Snoke, and then it's like, who is this massive big creature? And then of course Episode 8 brings Snoke in, and then they kill off Snoke, and now everyone's thinking, well, what's the point of bringing in a villain that you're not going to introduce? And then, of course, Episode 9, within the first 5 minutes, shows that it was Palpatine who made Snoke. And
grew them in vats.
And you even see that.
That looked so funny, and it was just, whoa, wait, what? Because we suspected, but actually seeing the Snokes in the Vat. Snokes in the Vat, by the way, a great metal band name. But the whole opening scene was really cool. I do like ahead of time, though, they said to everybody, like, there's flashing lights, epilepsy warning, stuff like that. It was kind of hard to see at times, but it was really atmospheric.
Oh, yeah, the whole flashing lights when they revealed. And I mean, like, I thought Palpatine was kind of creepy, but he wasn't fully formed.
Which is exactly what he should have been.
Yeah.
His fingers all mangled and rotting.
And then not even having eyes.
White. Ooh, eyes.
So now it just leaves the question of, like, how did he become, like, obviously we know in Legends that he's able to transfer his conscience. We know that
transfer.
Yeah, we know that happens in the Darth Bane series. Spoilers if you haven't actually read it. It does happen at the end of the 3rd book, and it actually leaves a mystery hanging.
Oh, wow.
On whether or not he completed his essence transfer.
Well, thank you for not letting me, close my ears before hearing that, because I haven't read the Bane books.
I did say spoiler warning, but I didn't ruin anything technically.
Yeah, fair enough.
The whole point of the whole point of the 3rd book is he learns how to essence transfer, and so he goes on a pursuit to doing it because he's getting old, and he feels that his apprentice isn't a worthy apprentice because, like the Rule 2 says, the only way for the apprentice to become the master is to kill the master. But he's
like Palpatine, none of his apprentices are, singularly strong enough.
Yeah, and that's like, and of course with Darth Plagueis, that was kind of the same thing. Like all the different Darth Bane, Darth Plagueis, all of them, how they killed their masters were very, very interesting. To say, like, it was all based on manipulation, and that's where I liked where Palpatine is one of the greatest Sith, because yes, like in Clone Wars he fights, you see him and he's wielding 2 lightsabers, which now makes sense of why in Revenge of the Sith, he gets one lightsaber rid of, and then of course he pulls out a second one.
Oh yeah.
Because he always had 2, but he never really liked fighting, and it's explained in the Darth Plagueis book. He always liked using
other people's strength.
Yeah,
instead
and he was always manipulating, and he always was pulling the strings, and he's always been like that. So I like the fact that when they revealed that he's been the voice, and it shows James Earl Jones voicing Darth Vader, Andy Serkis voicing Snoke. Like, even if it's for that half second, it is them. And it's like, you think Snoke is this big, mysterious guy, and it reminds you of Empire Strikes Back. For the first 2 episodes, we have this big villain, Darth Vader, who is the best of the best, and then all of a sudden,
he bows to someone.
He's bowing to somebody, and he's now the apprentice, and you're thinking, there's a bigger bad guy in this. And that's, like, a lot of the trilogy a lot of this new trilogy does base on the other 2. Like, even in The Phantom Menace, it's, you see Darth Sidious at the time, but we don't know that it's Darth Sidious. It's just this hooded figure talking with the Viceroy and stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's like my apprentice and another figure. And it goes, now there's 2 of them?
It's just a constant escalation and danger. And it's incredible. And I love that Palpatine is the big bad of the entire Skywalker storyline. But at the same time, it does sort of bring into question Anakin and his balance of the Force.
Yeah.
But that's,
yeah,
a question to be answered another day, I guess.
Yeah, like the prophecy, it says the one bring balance of the Force. It is quoted more in the Master and Apprentice book based on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
That's the next one on my list.
Yeah, I've listened to some of it. I have to go back and probably re-listen to some of it, but so far it's actually pretty good, and it deals actually before Count Dooku turns to the dark side.
Oh yeah.
So it's got him in it.
Because doesn't he turn after Qui-Gon dies?
Right before, I think.
Oh, okay.
I'm not 100%
I never did
sure.
listen to Jedi Lost, so I'm still kind of
That's on my next one to do.
Yeah.
Because that's with Count Dooku as well, so...
Yeah.
I think Count Dooku is an underrated villain.
Oh, he's great, especially Christopher Lee as him.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Incredible.
And I mean, him in even in the Clone Wars, he was very good.
Oh, yeah. I'm rewatching the first little bit. And yeah, him testing Grievous in Lair of Grievous, the episode, him getting captured by Hondo, even, like, Dooku is great, but yeah, this is about Rise of Skywalker.
Yes,
so may as well get back on top of that.
Okay, another thing I like about it was the new Force abilities we had. Like, yes, with Rey healing the worm and healing Kylo Ren and stuff. And I mean, even in the theater, somebody behind me was just like, we've never seen that before. And I almost turned around and said, obviously you had not watched The Mandalorian, because it literally happened 2 days before.
Spoilers, by the way.
Yes, sorry. We shouldn't really say spoilers, because this is a spoiler review, so...
No, yeah, fair enough.
But we do spoil other things, so forewarning.
If you're British, you'll be really mad right now, so sorry.
Should have won the Evolution War.
Though we're Canadian, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well.
It's just a stupid joke. Kidding all, I'm just saying.
Or are we?
Well, I know I do have a British friend that follows my YouTube, and he might have some words for me after this.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, as soon as he gets back from holidays or vacation, one of the two, he doesn't like the one, so... I won't say who, I'll just wait for him to comment and go on the British way. Anyways... so of course, like the new Force abilities and the fact of like Episode 8, the Last Jedi made it so that there was the connection and Kylo's in a ship and then all of a sudden he's got rain on him and stuff. But they took it to a whole new level, like being able to grab stuff from each other.
Oh yeah,
and I think that was a bit of a foreshadow because even including their fight scene, like. Obviously in the trailer, we had that they were fighting side by side, and then of course when they destroy the Vader's helmet,
the pedestal,
yeah, the pedestal, and then of course it appears on the planet that Kylo Ren's on.
I just have something I was wondering about that last time I saw it. Did he pick up the helmet, or did he leave it on Kijimi? Because I don't think he would have left it there.
Yeah, we didn't see it.
I guess it doesn't matter, but this is one of the little, like, details that I care about, because I'm stupid like that.
No, and I thought, yeah, so I thought that was really cool. Like, they were able to fight even though they're not there.
It's one of the coolest fights, I think, in the saga, honestly. Like, Duel of the Fates, Battle of Heroes, like,
yeah,
they're classic, amazing. This one really broke the mold in a lot of ways, and I think it was really cool. Even some of the shots where it's panning and it's in the city and then in the room, and it was a really cool sequence.
It actually reminded me of the TV show Sense8. Quick synopsis of it: it's 8 people that are able to connect with each other, like Kylo and
like the Dyad.
Yeah, like the Dyad did, and they could use each other's abilities. So one was a karate person, so they would help out each other and things like that. And that just reminded me so much of it, of how they were able to connect. And the cool thing when Rey reaches back and then pulls nothing out of her hand, and then he pans over to Kylo.
All right, let's talk about Redeemed Ben, because he was amazing for the all 5 minutes we got of him. The entire time after he left the ruins of the Death Star, he was amazing. Like, landing on Exegol, jumping down and landing on that chain, and just the little ow. That was amazing. Funny. The little shrug he gives to the knights when he pulls out the saber, like, Redeemed Ben was amazing.
Oh yeah, I thought that was
exactly what I was hoping for this entire trilogy.
I just find it I just find it sad that, you know, he never got to actually see his mom. Like, they never met in the entire trilogy.
The thing is I do have that listed as one of the things I didn't like, but at the same time that just helps with the tragedy of the story, because to quote another podcast that's incredible, Sky Talkers, they always say Star Wars is tragedy, and this really adds to it. We don't get to see the original trio adventuring again. We also don't get to see Ben seeing Uncle Wanwo and his mom again, and it's a tragedy, but it's also beautiful in that way. So yeah, it's really nice. But Ben seeing his father again, though,
that was a surprise for me.
It was very much a surprise. I did not expect it at all. Yeah, that was the scene I was expecting to see Hayden Christensen in, honestly, but it made more sense seeing Han.
Yeah, because that was his one regret, I think. Is
the greatest thing that fractured him. Like Snoke said, he's more divided than ever.
Yeah. Like, and that's like, it is in the novelization. It's explained more in the novelization of The Last Jedi on the fact that, you know, why Snoke said take that helmet off, because Kylo's trying to be like Darth Vader. Of course, Darth Vader has a helmet and stuff, so that's why he has a helmet. Oh, yeah. But of course, with the confliction, it's like, well, you are not full Sith. You're still conflicted, whereas Darth Vader had completely turned, and so it's like, take that thing off.
Until he didn't.
Yeah, until the very end.
But yeah, Ben being redeemed does echo a lot of Anakin and Vader in Return of the Jedi. I just wish that it would have been a little more different. It was done really well for what we got, but we needed more. And I think it would have been absolutely beautiful, and I've been saying this for like 2 years now, since, actually a little longer than that, since white sabers were a thing in canon, but it would have been incredible if once he turns back to the light, he ignites his saber again, and it's white.
Instead of throwing it away, it would
have been incredible.
Oh, that would have been...
I really wanted to see a white saber in a movie.
Yeah, because in the book Ahsoka, spoiler warning for those of you who haven't seen...
It's like a 4-year-old book. But still.
I'm assuming you've read it.
I haven't read it, but I do know the vast majority of important things. Yeah. And it's in Rebels as well. So if you didn't know it in that, like, come on.
In the book, it shows how she got it. She was able to take the kyber crystal that was bled and cleanse it, basically.
Yeah, I do like that Rey. We do get to see. I couldn't tell if it was.
It was yellow.
It was yellow, or because it looked kind of orange.
Oranges, but it was yellow.
Yeah, and I do like how she made it out of her staff. I'm pretty sure it was.
I think so too.
It was the parts of like the ends of her staff. With,
the whole time I'm thinking, why doesn't she have double-bladed? Like,
or the saber staff, like I've seen so many people wanting. That would have been really cool.
Because she's fought most of this, like, every time she had her staff, she was always fighting with a staff. Like, why didn't it make sense to do double-bladed? Because
what Darkrai had with the Pon Krell style double that flips around, that is really cool.
Because I know you saw it a second time, whereas I've only seen it once. Did you catch where she flips? She
traps her.
Yeah, she trapped the lightsaber.
So cool.
I never saw Pon do that. So
his were too big to do that, and he never really got an opportunity.
That is true, because he fought clones. He never fought an actual.
Exactly.
But I thought that was a cool little thing.
It was really cool.
And then, of course, like the scare where it gets her coming out, and then
which works with Palpatine. He's made creepy faces like that before.
Yeah. So. And then all of a sudden Ben is there picking up the actual Pathfinder. I think it was called Pathfinder.
I think it was a Wayfinder.
Wayfinder, yes. Picking up the Wayfinder, and then. To me, I'm thinking, is he actually there, or is that a Force connection again? Like, I thought for a quick second, is it a connection? And then when they started getting together, I was like, okay, yeah, no, he's actually there. It's like, but how did he find out?
I think that's a good question.
Because it's not fully explained, like, I know where she is.
Maybe Palpatine told him where the other Wayfinder was. Because he was still talking in his head. So maybe that's how.
Maybe in the novelization we'll pick up on a few things.
Easily. There will be so much explained. But I do like the sequence of everybody memed the crap out of this when we saw it in the trailer. Them going over that hill, seeing the wreckage of the Death Star, and everybody made so many memes about how much panting, sweating, and excitement Rey must have at all the portions she could get from that wreckage. She'd be set for life. And the sequence looked so cool and so, like, especially because Fallen Order just came out about a month ago now. Mm-hmm. The sequence of her climbing through the wreckage was almost exactly like Cal climbing through the wreckage of the Venator that's crashed on... I forgot the name of the planet.
I haven't played the game, so I don't know what planet.
I don't think it was the planet Zepho. It might have been. I can't remember the name. But still, it was very reminiscent of Fallen Order, seeing as it was only a few weeks earlier. But
yeah. But the real now to the Palpatine fight, finding out that Rey is a Palpatine, it would almost remind me of when when the big bomb of Luke being told Vader is his father, and then of course in Episode 6 it has to be reassured. I think they try to mirror that because. Obviously, when in Episode 8, when Kylo Ren said, your parents were nothing, they were just junkers. And to me, I was saying, I think he's just lying about it to try to get her under her skin kind of thing.
Which makes sense.
Which made total sense, but then you find out that they actually were junkers, but by choice to hide Rey from Palpatine.
Yeah. I do think that Rey being a nobody is thematically perfect, I think, because it teaches kids, it doesn't matter where you come from, who your family is. What matters is who you are and who you want to be. Mm-hmm. And that is, like, at the core of Star Wars, I think. And that's one of the, dozens of reasons why The Last Jedi is my favorite. But her being a Palpatine... There is a little kernel of really cool, like, theming in that of the grandchild of Vader and the grandchild of Palpatine coming together to end the Sith once and for all. That's a cool idea, but that's where my positivity about Rey Palpatine sort of ends. Mm-hmm. For a few different reasons. I think the biggest one that made the least amount of sense to me was her parents... leaving her on Jakku from that ship, that turns out to be the ship of the guy who was hunting them, and then he kills her parents aboard that ship, and then goes to Pisana for some reason, and leaves the dagger beside his dead body or whatever. That doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Rey's mom say right before the dad was killed, she's on Jakku, she's safe? Like, didn't they spout out Jakku?
I don't think so.
I heard her say something like...
I know that they say to Baby Rey, like, you'll be safe here, we promise, and then they leave.
Yeah.
But...
No, this was right before, like, as they're tied up, ready to be killed.
I think it was just a line about how they don't know where she is or something like that.
Yeah, I did hear Jakku. I could be wrong. I'll definitely have to watch it again. So
head to the theater another time, I guess.
I guess
I gotta go again anyway, because maybe if I watch through it again and pay a little more attention to how things are.
Yeah, I always like to go
the whole
to...
ship thing might make more sense. But...
Yeah, I always like to go to movies at least multiple times. One, to just enjoy it, and then the second time to see what I've missed. You know, I have a vivid memory most of the time, so I was like, okay, I know what's coming up. Let's see what else is in the background. Because some movies actually have funny backgrounds.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess when it comes to the... So, of course, when it comes to the Palpatine and the Rey fight, when it gets down to it, of course, you have, like, Palpatine saying, I am the one of all the Sith. And then it's like Rey saying, I am one with Jedi. And when she's being down and you hear all the different voices, that surprised me.
Really cool.
And, like, it is confirmed, in case you haven't picked up any of the voices, we've got Obi-Wan Kenobi, who it's voiced by Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness, which they used archive footage for it. Kind of like what they did with Episode 7.
I think it was the same clip, actually.
It could have been the same clip. So that's the one I picked up. Obviously, everyone picked up Mace Windu. Samuel L. Jackson's got that unique, iconic voice. Yoda, obviously. If you didn't pick up Yoda, I don't know.
You weren't
Yoda,
paying attention, I guess.
Clearly. And of course, that was voiced by Frank Oz, who has been doing Yoda all this time. Anakin Skywalker was on there, voiced by Hayden Christensen. We've got Qui-Gon Jinn, that was voiced by Liam Neeson. Kanan Jarrus by Freddie Prinze Jr.,
who I didn't still catch on my second viewing.
Yeah, I like, because it all happened so fast, you're trying to listen to it all. And then, of course, Ahsoka Tano, which that surprised me.
And I did catch the second time.
So, by Ashley Eckstein. And to me, I think that just kind of confirms that, I mean... At this stage, it's like, what? She's probably 70 or 80. So
about that. But yeah. I do love how JJ's basically like, hey, Ahsoka fans are in for a treat for this movie. And everyone's like, wait, what? Because she's dead? Like, thanks, JJ.
Well, and before I even knew about this, talking about it, it's like, you know what? I'm actually glad Ahsoka wasn't in it. Because it just would have made no sense. Because where has she been all this time? Yeah. And then the three that were kind of interesting for me was Illumina Unduli, which is voiced by Oliver Diabo, or however you pronounce her last name.
Olivia Dabo, I think.
Olivia Dabo.
Luminara has one of the more iconic voices, I think.
But the voice actor was the same voice actor for Clone Wars. Same with Ayla Secura, voiced by, one of your favorite voice actors, Jennifer Hale. And then Adi Gallia, which I didn't pick up on, but apparently you did.
I did, just barely. I was like, wait a minute. I heard Ayla because her accent is so, like, obvious.
I picked up on
it. Was like, wait
Illuminati.
A minute, that does sound like Adi, because she was one of the more prominent Jedi in the Clone Wars, and one of my favorites until, Savage just...
Yeah, it's Savage Opress.
Spiked her.
For people who cannot pronounce it, because people say it's Savage. It's actually Savage.
Because accents, and, Star Wars does do those, but they like to change the pronunciation just a little bit to make them sound cool. Like Savage or...
well, and that's the thing, like, Star Wars Jedi Power Battles, which was a PlayStation 1 video game where you play as Plo Koon, Adi Gallia, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Mace, where you basically run through Episode 1 of Star Wars. And it's a single player or two player, but I loved Adi Gallia because not only did Plo Koon have a yellow lightsaber, Mace Windu had a purple one, Qui-Gon green, and Obi-Wan blue, but Adi Gallia had a red one, which was really interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
But it technically was crimson, and... I think I read it in EU that she did have one, but then when the Sith became a natural thing, and in ancient times, Sith was well known with red, she changed it to blue. So it's canon that it's blue, but it was in Legends where it was red, and in the game, she actually had it reverse. So when everyone was running around, of course, everyone's running it holding it straight up, but she was running it one-handed with it upside down.
Ah.
It's a cool little game and a cool little thing, and that's why
I've never heard of that one.
It's a fun game. Darth Maul you face twice, and he's extremely hard. Tatooine one is just stupid in general.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so those voices all are confirmed to be in it, and sources from IMDb as well as other websites who confirmed it. So the fact is, Lumina Unduli, Aayla Secura, and Adi Gallia, their voice actors from Clone Wars were in this one, and then of course everyone else.
They were interesting choices, and they are pretty iconic Jedi for
the
fandom.
Well, that's the thing, but that's the thing with these three. Especially for the Clone Wars, that's where they were most known for.
Yeah.
Illumina Unduli only had about a couple of screen time.
Even shots in.
Even Barriss, like her apprentice,
had just as much screen time as Luminaru in the
and then
arena.
Aayla Secura was in the third one where she basically shot down, and then Adi Gallia was a background character in the first one, and that's it.
And then her cousin Stas Ali was the one killed in Revenge of the Sith by Neo, but everybody thought when Adi Gallia died in the Clone Wars that was a contradiction. Turns out, nope, they are cousins because that's a good way to get around writing.
But I thought that was an interesting choice. Oh. Obviously, you got Mace Windu, you got Obi-Wan, Yoda, Anakin, Qui-Gon.
The obvious choices.
The obvious choices. Kanan, Jarrus, and Ahsoka, I get.
They were really cool that they were added in, and I do like that.
Yeah, because now you're picking up Rebels and Clone War characters.
And with Kanan being, tied to the mystical side of the Force in Rebels, it makes sense that, mystical Force stuff in Rise of Skywalker would have him. Mm-hmm. And Ahsoka is, Ahsoka, so of course she had to be
fan favorites, of course. But yeah, those I thought were very interesting on how they did it, and a part of me wanted it. Would have been nice to have all the ghosts of the Jedi and all the ghosts of the Sith, but then kind of like now we've got this big battle, but only it would almost be like an audience thing. Only we can see it. But the two characters can't.
I think it would have been cooler if it was just Palpatine on his own saying it, and then all of the ghosts, at least of the ghosts we know who exist, like Yoda, Luke, Leia, Obi-Wan, and Anakin, showing up behind Rey, and then combining into her, and then she says, "I'm all the Jedi." That would have been really cool.
Yeah, but obviously we can't have everything.
There was already enough fan service,
pretty much. And then, I don't know if you had anything else to add, but the one last thing that I liked about it was the return of some other original trilogy characters. You had Wedge, even though it was only one shot, he had one line.
Oh, yeah. And he was in Resistance Reborn, so that makes a lot of sense that he's back.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool. And then, of course, Wicked, played by the original Warwick Davis. Warwick Davis always has a part in every Star Wars. The only one he did not have a part was The Last Jedi, because it ended up being in a deleted scene.
Yeah, other than him, the only one who has perfect attendance is Anthony Daniels, because he was a background guy in the Kessel Mine and Solo. But other than that, 3PO, specifically Anthony Daniels, has been in every single live-action Star Wars movie. So.
Yeah, so, the fact is that, you got those two characters that and Warwick Davis is very iconic. He's very well known. He's like a host of half the Star Wars celebrations.
Oh yeah. So
he's
even outside of Star Wars, he's just a really well-known good dude. Mm-hmm. So that was cool to have him back. But I would also like to talk about Dio because he's adorable.
Yeah.
And actually having a little droid who speaks English is pretty, a welcome change because we know what he's specifically saying instead of just guessing from responses from other, the characters.
Yeah, and going back to, the new kind of the Force abilities, because obviously you had Rey healing the snake and then telling BB-8, I gave some of my life force, and then BB-8 in return charges Dio.
It's so good.
And then and Dio almost reminded me of a little dog. Because, first, because clearly he wasn't treated well because he sees Rey and is immediately terrified.
Yeah, he's hesitant.
And then he had to be rehabilitated to...
And then he says, "Thank you, very kind." And then he likes people again, and he starts saying hi to everyone else, like Janna's... I don't know the name of the species, like that they ride.
Horse,
basically the horses, yeah. He tries to say hello to them, and then when it, starts to sniff at him, he's like, "No, thank you." But speaking of the horses, I want to talk about two things that are really, I think they go really well with the overall theme of Star Wars. Is first off, in the cave, the tunnels with that serpent, we see Rey, the good guy, instead of, fighting and defending themselves against, a wild animal that's about to attack, they go in and they notice, like, yeah, it's pretty generic, but they notice it's injured, they help it, and then it lets them go. It goes on its merry way. Mm-hmm. And that's really cool. On top of that, though, is one of the coolest parts of this movie, even in the trailers, a cavalry charge down the side of a bloody Star Destroyer. That was so cool.
Yeah,
and it ties in really well with something that I've noticed, and I've been talking about a long time about the general Star Wars, is the good guys, they work with and like support nature and wildlife and everything like that, while the bad guys, they try to stomp it down and use technology to their own ends. Mm-hmm. We see that in Rebels, we see it in The Phantom Menace, we see it everywhere in Star Wars just about, and Rise of Skywalker had two really good examples.
Mm-hmm. Well, even like the response, like, with all the fleets coming in, well, where did we get this army? It's like, it's just people. And then, of course, you got, well, they're on our ship. Well, jam their speeders.
They're not using speeders.
We don't have any speeders. Cool. When they said that, I'm thinking, oh,
we know exactly what's going on. Once Janna was there, we knew.
And then all of a sudden, bam, they're coming out riding on horses.
That was so cool.
What did you think of Dominic's character?
Domhnall Gleeson? Yeah. Oh, Hux.
No, not Hux.
Monaghan, right.
Yeah, Dominic Monaghan.
Good old Mary. Right.
Yeah, Mary or Charlie from Lost. Also another creation of J.J. Abrams. So I can kind of see the connection there.
Similar to Snap.
But I love his reference for Holdo. It's just like, let's just pull a Holdo.
I didn't like that, honestly. Because Holdo's, sacrifice was a 1 in a million, like, desperate last chance to do something to save people.
And I like it's not well represented in the movie, but in the book, when that scene is happening, and of course it's like, oh, Holdo's running away, and Poe says, no, she's not, because Poe remembers that he punched in coordinates. Getting ready for the jump.
It was a mix of the safety restraints, I think, being down. The fact that it's low on fuel, it wasn't really able to keep up properly. The mix of the navigation was the big one.
From what I understand in the novelization is that because. And this is why hyperspace takes a little bit to navigate when you're making a jump, because you got to make a successful jump. So, like, if it's not just a point A to point B in a straight line, the navigation has to go, okay, we can go this far, but actually at this point we have to turn.
Yeah.
So when she's turning and goes to do the hyperspace, the command is going, no, there's stuff in the way, you can't do this. So she has to manually override it.
Exactly.
That's why
there
she's
are fail-safes to prevent it from doing that.
Yeah.
It really shouldn't have happened. It was a 1 in a million shot of happening, like what I think Poe says in that scene. Mm-hmm. I just don't really like that they put that comment in there, and then we see it happen anyway at the end of the movie with the one over the forest moon of Endor. We see that happen anyway to it. It just kind of really cheapens Holdo's sacrifice, and it seems like another sort of not really intentional jab at The Last Jedi and Ryan, but sort of like it can be taken as that.
I think it was more meant of, oh, well, we just need a big ship to just crash through and, away you go. Like almost like a suicide thing.
Yeah. It really... I'm not a huge fan of the reference to it, but the Holdo maneuver and everything like that was really good in The Last Jedi.
I think that is one of the best shots in all of this, all of Star Wars thing. The fact is that it goes through a ship and it's just pure silence. Like there's no sound at all.
And then the sound after that
it reminds you of Attack of the Clones when the
seismic charges.
Yeah, and then it's just boom.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. Anything else we liked about it before we start nitpicking?
Well, I mean, we could talk about Jannah specifically because she's just incredible and Naomi Aki's amazing. There's her. There's
some of the new characters. So
Connix gets more screen time, not as much as she had in The Last Jedi. That was probably when she was the most prominent, but she was still there a fair bit. Rose, I'll mention that a bit more on the dislikes, but what we got of her was great. Dominic was cool. Who else did we see? I noticed Vober Dand in the background, which unless you're like in on the core pages on Facebook, you won't really know him, but in the visual dictionary, I think it is, his father actually joins the Resistance after he sees the Hosnian catastrophe and everything, and he's like, wow, my son who joined the Resistance was right, and he joins as well, helping his son, work with the Resistance. So we see him in the background. We get Sai, I think is how it's pronounced, the other Abednego pilot from The Last Jedi. We see him for one line. He says, General, the command ship, before everything gets blown up. So that was cool to see that he was still alive by the end. Who else was really cool there? Oh yeah, Larma Dacey. This was another one I wanted to talk about for the likes, because despite it only being, one minor character and basically an extra, we got our first on-screen, gay rep, sort of. Though, unfortunately, it being Disney, they're going to cut it out for foreign screenings, but it's there, and it's nice to finally be in the big screen.
Yeah, even though it's a quick second.
And it being Larma, that was, really nice, and obviously when you see her in her outfit with the headband and everything, you're like, that makes perfect sense, but she's a really cool character, and the fact that she has a wife and everything, that's just super cute. And in the theater, when that happened, I was like, aw, and the guy beside me was ew, and I just thought, dude, but we should be, at the point, like what Oscar said, this is a current thing. It's not, some out there futuristic concept that, it's just love. That's all it is.
And there's a lot of, like if you really look down to it, the whole galaxy, because there's not an official title for this galaxy. It's just called A Galaxy Far, Far Away.
Yeah.
And there's trillions and trillions of people, aliens getting along together. Like the fact is that aliens and humans get along.
Interspecies relationships. What's so out there about Dr. Aphra and I think her name's Magna Tolvan? Like the main character of probably the most successful comic line in Star Wars history is a gay woman. So it's great that we finally have that in the movie.
On screen.
That was really great. But for the little tiny bit that we got. I just wish it would have been more prominent. Like if Poe got to do it, like what Oscar said he was hoping for. And Oscar has been very vocal about that, but maybe I'll bring that up again in the dislikes.
I still like the comedic thing of can I get a kiss now? And it's just like, no. But then he tries again, but non-verbally, just kind of tilts his head, can I get the kiss?
Poe is amazing.
That is great acting. I think by Oscar Isaac.
He's incredible. If you see stuff like Triple Frontier, I think it's called, and Operation Finale,
and he's very fantastic in Apocalypse, the X-Men.
Oh yeah, I've heard he voices Apocalypse, doesn't he?
He is Apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
He does. You wouldn't know, but he's a very good actor.
He is a damn good actor, and he is good looking too. That's only one factor of what I love about Poe, but it is a factor. All of you who know me on Twitter, that's about at least 25% of my brand is talking about how hot Oscar Isaac is. But moving swiftly on.
Okay, so I think we're going to get to the point of now we're going to talk about things we didn't like about the movie. It doesn't necessarily mean that we hated the movie because of these points. It's just not every movie is going to have flawless 100%. You liked it. There's nothing that can change your mind. You didn't like a single thing. And these aren't really, like, some of these might be nitpicks, and you might think, oh, well, I like that part of the movie. Why didn't you? It's like, okay, well, that is your opinion. These are just our opinions of why we didn't like it.
This is completely separate from a lot of the online hate of The Last Jedi. This one is just, we personally didn't enjoy it. The people who loved it, awesome. Great. Exactly. Perfect. These are just, and I'll admit, some of mine are kind of nitpicky, but it's just, things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way and left me feeling slightly conflicted. I still did really enjoy the movie, but this, I'd give it about a 7 out of 10, but we'll save that for later. These are just things that I didn't like, and that's really all it is.
And I think we both decided on this. We'll do the couple things that we both had decided on, and the fact that the Knights of Ren did absolutely nothing. Yeah, we got one, like, we heard about these Knights of Ren from The Force Awakens. We got one flashback clip of them, and that was it. And then in The Last Jedi, we had a reference to them, like, Kylo Ren, the Knights of Ren, and that was it. And now here these were more prominent, but they still did nothing.
I do like when they arrive on Pisana and that big, like, landscape shot of them on the rocks posing. That was a great cinematography. That would have been the perfect album cover for my band Vats of Snokes. But it was a great shot. But if that would have been put before they fell into the sinking sands, instead of right before we see them magically right beside the ship, it would have given us more time to be like, oh shit, the Knights... Sorry. Oh no, the Knights are here on Pisana, and then they show up at the ship, they're tracking them, they know where they are, instead of just magically, oh, they're on the planet, and here they are. If they could have put it a few minutes earlier, that would have been better.
No, my understanding was the Knights of Ren were... now, I don't know if this was a theory or if this was true, that they were the other students of Luke's
think
Jedi.
Has been confirmed to be false. They apparently have been in unknown regions, like Sith worshipping, like warrior group or something.
And then when Kylo came, it's just like here's your own.
Snoke sent them to retrieve Kylo, and apparently they were the ones who slaughtered Luke's followers and people at his temple. Apparently Ben didn't kill anyone that night. It was just the Knights, and they brought him back to Snoke to be their leader.
Because now it kind of makes more sense now, because when Kylo's fighting now the Knights and stuff, and, let's face it, I think Kylo / Ben, needing a lightsaber to fight these people because he was getting beaten down and stuff.
And that's like, why he won against them, is because he had a lightsaber. He was better when he was with that, but without that weapon, and when it's just they did fall in line. But I do like that if they would have been Luke's former students, they would have turned or at least supported him because he's our leader. He's the one who led us here. There must be a good reason he's turned or something like that. They're loyal to Snoke, specifically Palpatine, now that we know Snoke is just his pawn, but they're loyal to him. That's why they fought Ben when he went back to, what's the name of the planet at the end? Exegol.
Yeah.
So many weird planet names in this movie.
I was thinking Exodus for some reason.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's what it is, because it's an old Sith homeworld thing sort of deal.
Yeah, and it's in the unknown regions. I'm not 100% sure
I mean, the Final Order was having an exodus out of there, so that might be where it came from. But, I forgot to mention the Final Order on the likes. That's really cool.
Cool name, yeah.
That it being the Final Order, and it's if you don't bow to us, your planet is destroyed.
We had the Imperial and the Imperials. We had the First Order, and now it's the Final Order.
And that was really cool. But anyway, back to the Knights. Yeah, they didn't do much, and when they showed up on Kijimi, it was just, okay, what's the point? It's like, oh, they're running along, and then all of a sudden, they're walking down the hallway. Like, okay, this looks like it's out of Wizard of Oz. Like, are we going to hear the whoa, wee, whoa, wee, whoa, all of a sudden? Like, come on.
Exactly.
The Knights, they were set up to be so good. Cool, and such a threat, and they were threatening for like 20 seconds.
Yeah, good job to JJ for, making the first one, and then... Ryan obviously going a complete different thing. Not saying it's a bad thing. It's just...
I wouldn't say complete different.
Well, in some terms, yes. In some terms, no. Yeah. But then, of course, JJ now is having to combine. The fact is, well, this is what I wanted to begin with, so I'm going to go this way. But then you also having to repair from what happened in The Last Jedi, answering questions that weren't necessarily answered.
And the thing is,
off that.
This is part of what I disliked is how JJ went about it. Because Ryan, what he did, he worked with the story group and he built to logical conclusions what JJ set up. Like, why is Luke in exile? How did the son of the galaxy's greatest heroes turn to the dark side? Like, things like that. That was all set up to be answered after The Force Awakens, which meant Ryan would have to answer them. He brought them to their logical conclusions. And then JJ comes along, and I admit there are a few things he did that really did build off The Last Jedi as well.
Yeah, finding, who Snoke is and things.
There were a few things that really seemed like they wanted to do their own answers separate from The Last Jedi.
Like, he tried to do both, appease the fan service, and I think that's why this weekend it did not get the highest opening weekend, is because people are still, and I'm gonna say this, bitter about The Last Jedi, and then of course 5 months later Solo coming out, and that even was...
Honestly, I think that might not be as big of an issue as it is just, okay, it's another Star Wars. Like, the first one was the first one in decades. The second one was, it's the second part of the story, and it's, leading up to be really cool. We want to know what's happening. And then the next one, it's been like a year and a half since like the other four, especially after Endgame. We're kind of Star Wars'd out for a little while, general audiences being. General audiences did really love The Last Jedi. It's just... This one, it makes sense that it's the lowest of the ones, especially when you look at certain series. As the series go on, view count and excitement typically goes down. So it makes sense for this trilogy.
Yeah, and I mean that leads to one of the dislikes of there's still a lot of unanswered questions. But I mean, I can see them being set up for future stuff, either in a comic or in a book. I mean, like, we still haven't gotten a full answer on how Maz came across the lightsaber, correct me if I'm wrong, did Luke's lightsaber not get shattered in The Last Jedi? I thought it did.
Well, it looks like Leia repaired it.
Yeah.
There's that strap across it, she hands it back to Rey.
Yeah, and that's what I did read as well, that it did, so I think, it got shattered, got repaired, which is really interesting, because... obviously from Clone Wars, we know that, yes, lightsabers are comprised of and actually built, and then they have the kyber crystal. So, it's like, where did the kyber crystal go? Like, we didn't see it.
This also really gets help from Fallen Order, because near the end of the story, Cal returns to Ilum to make a new lightsaber. He finds his kyber crystal, and at this point, he's probably at his lowest in the story. The crystal breaks and he nearly gives up, but he still builds his lightsaber and everything, and it works really well. So
a cracked crystal?
A broken crystal doesn't necessarily mean a lightsaber's broken. Like, we do see Kylo's crystal apparently is cracked, and that's why it does that radiation, which looks really cool, but a broken crystal doesn't necessarily mean the lightsaber is, unfixable. So it's really cool that things like Fallen Order and The Mandalorian do really help the movie.
And even in Clone Wars, when it had the younglings go to Ilum and how they found their crystals and stuff, and we see that on how that process is done, because it's been shown in other things like Star Wars: The Old Republic. If you play the stories of the Jedi and stuff, you actually craft your own lightsaber. But it's now to see canonized version of how it's done, and it's even quoted like, oh, well, I see a thing up there, well, that must, a crystal's up there, and the other Padawan's like, I don't see it.
And then it turns into ice, or it actually ends up being the right crystal.
Yeah, so it's actually it all depends on how a Jedi sees it, and the crystal, it calls to that. And that's even how you depict your color. Like obviously the different colors have different meanings and stuff. A lot of people for Mace Windu having the purple lightsaber. Yes, Samuel L. Jackson wanted one, so George Lucas said, "Why not?"
They came up with the reason later, which honestly, that's not at all bad.
The reasoning from what I read is that it's a picture. It's for Mace Windu. Purple means, and it's in pictures of Revan having a red and a purple lightsaber. Is you dive into dark and light abilities.
Like his fighting form 7 Vapod, I think it was called?
Yeah, and Mace Windu, in Clone Wars especially, he does a lot of stuff that you don't normally see, and it's never been seen before. Like, he puts his hand on a glass thing and shatters the glass.
Oh, I was just about to say that one.
So, but then he also just gets people to sleep, like, just sleep.
Oh, yeah.
So, and again, we're getting off track again.
I like to think that the Force... it really ties into how Ahsoka says in Rebels. As soon as you start to think you know what's going on, you find out how little you really know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great approach for fans to take with the Force as well, because at the end of the day, the Force is just whatever the writer needs it to be. And if you either come to terms with that just outright, or you think we just don't know, either side, you'll probably enjoy it a lot more than think, oh, we've never seen this before, but suddenly they're doing it in this movie, despite
the Force healing. It has been done before, and we just never saw it the way we've seen it before,
or as prominent.
Yeah, the new Force ability of the connection, handing lightsaber from across dimensions. I'm gonna say, just for simplicity's sake. Because it kind of was.
A lot of people are guessing that has something to do with the World Between Worlds, which that might be a bit much to bring into the movies at the moment.
I thought it was great for Rebels, it's my favorite episode of Rebels, bringing in the Mortis arc and stuff. That'll probably be for another podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll get to more things that we don't like about it.
Number one being, we realized why Domhnall Gleeson wasn't on the press tour this time.
Yes, his death. And I didn't like it, not necessarily because he died, but of how quick it was.
It was very... And that's one thing that it sucks that Hux died, but it really showed how devoted Allegiant General Pride was to Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
Like
when you find out
says,
after,
as I served you in the old order, I serve you now. He is without hesitation obeying. He is a devoted Imperial First Order. He's a loyalist to Palpatine. No questions asked. We found our spy. Boom, it's him. And Hux, I do like. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I found like. Throughout the whole movie, when it first was announced and it focused on Pride, this new character, my whole thought was, it's him, like right off the bat.
Oh yeah.
And they made it look more and more every time.
Especially like the light and shadow of his eyes after he tells them to interrogate Chewbacca, like it.
Yeah, like I was almost, and then when it came to the execution, and then Hux is there, and he's like, "Let me handle it right away."
Exactly when we knew
it's him. But I mean, because of course, in Rebels you had Agent Kallus.
Oh yeah,
and he switched over.
His defection was built. I think it was really good.
Yeah, Kallus's defection made sense, whereas Hux's it kind of made sense but didn't.
It wasn't really defecting anyway. It was just, he literally says, I don't care if you win. I just want Kylo to lose. I hate that guy. And we know that since the start. So yeah,
because
it made sense for
he's wanted to take control. And then, of course, Kylo is, he makes all these decisions based on his stuff. And, Hux is, my men should have done this, no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Why this? And then, of course, in Episode 8... he's getting thrown around like a rag doll half the time.
And the extra breaks his nose, and it's just, you can hear it. And I remember showing that scene to my parents, and as it was coming up, I say, just keep in mind, the extra broke his nose here. And they're like, oh, you can hear it!
So, and he's thrown around like a rag doll. So, of course, his defection, it wasn't really defection, it was just... I don't want Kylo to win.
It was just, somewhat of a betrayal.
Yeah, pure hatred. And then of course you find everything, and then Pride just turns around. We found our spy. Bam! Like just outright shoots him.
He shoots him and then says, "We found our spy." So Hux has no chance of thinking, "Wait, what?" He dies thinking he got away with it. It's pretty funny, and it's really
I'm interested to see how Pride figured it out. My guess is they got away.
It just seemed too suspicious.
Yeah,
I think it's
I just
shoot him in the leg so they'll think I wasn't helping you. Like, how many times has that happened in Star Wars?
But I like the fact of shoot me in the arm and then it just shoots him in the leg.
If I were Finn, I would have shot him a few times just so that it's like, okay, well, you helped us. The more wounds you have, the lower your chances of them suspecting you, I think.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why I'm not a good guy.
But, I mean, and speaking of deaths, the fake-out deaths we had, like, we had Chewbacca.
Oh, yeah.
It shocked me, pardon the pun, it shocked me when Rey shocked the transport, and, of course, they're all, like, Chewie, and of course now you're
Rey screaming it. That was
gut wrenching almost.
Oh,
because of course you have the way Leia dies. Obviously with Carrie Fisher, may she rest in peace. All the footage I thought was really well done on being completely archived. Not a single shot is Carrie Fisher. It was no CGI. It was just all archive footage, and I thought it was really well done cinematography because any shots of moving, but they always had the back of the head, so it was always
or the silhouette, or no focus on her actual face. It was
it was really well done on how they portrayed it, and of course with her dying, and then of course Luke dying, disappearing and stuff, and then of course we have Lando still alive, and then Han, just getting, stabbed and stuff, and then falling to his death. We didn't really have Chewbacca, and then of course that's the way he goes.
It would have been very tragic.
Yeah.
And if it would have, if Rey's power would have paid off more, it would have been good if that was his actual death. But I do like that he wasn't killed there.
It leaves the audience hanging for a second. And I wish they would have done this differently. We see the Millennium Falcon being brought in, and they're saying to, I think it was Pride.
Yeah.
And they were saying it too, we have something you might want to see, and then they don't leave it, we have a prisoner, just, we have something you might want to see. The door opens up, and that is Chewbacca. I think it would have made a lot more, instead of the big reveal of that he's not dead, I think it would have been a lot better that way, instead of just, we have a prisoner, then of course you're thinking, oh, well, Chewbacca's alive.
I think, and I don't like that they had the Falcon hooked up to TIE fighters. I think it would have made a lot more sense to hook them up to the actual, transports, and maybe the lead one lands in front of the Falcon in the hangar, and that's when Pride walks up and, like you said, and that revealed that Chewie is there, out of the transport he was actually in.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of him maybe stepping off the Falcon ramp, because why would they put their prisoners in there? But I think it was, as soon as they say we have a prisoner, there was maybe a 5% chance it was Lando, but everybody knew it was Chewie.
Yeah,
he was alive. It was
because Lando was not seen anywhere else. So
exactly. I was thinking maybe he got the Falcon back, but before. When they all ran off distracting the First Order, maybe Lando was like, all right, this is my chance, I'll get the Falcon out of here. But he didn't do that. It's really not important how he got to Agent Kloss, but he's there, so oh well.
Yeah. So, I mean, anything else you had?
I think Finn, it was really... This is one of the mixed ones for me, it was amazing that we finally got him confirmed that he has, a connection in the Force, similar to how Leia works, where it's his connection to the people he cares about.
Yeah,
that is his way of...
it is confirmed that by JJ himself in an interview that what he wanted to tell Rey was he was Force sensitive.
And I just think it would have been a great, if he would have actually told them maybe once everybody was back together after they left Kijimi, that maybe on when they crash on the Endor moon, be like, hey, this is what I wanted to tell you there.
Yeah,
and that might have actually kept her from running off because, I found out this truth about my bloodline, people are keeping secrets from me. Everybody says they know me, like she says.
Yeah.
But she's afraid no one does. And it did really make a lot of sense, her decision to run off on her own and later exile herself like Luke did.
Mm-hmm.
But
even going to Ahsoka and destroying the lightsaber.
Oh man, Ahsoka in general. Everything that has been done on Ahsoka in this trilogy, except for one thing at the end, was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Ahsoka might be one of my favorite planets in all of Star Wars. The only thing I didn't like was the X-Wing, Red 5, being lifted out of the water and her flying it away, because that was a big reason of Luke not being able to leave, is because his X-Wing was supposedly destroyed. He took one of the panels off of it to use as his door in his hut. They could have just been like, yeah, well, she put the panel back on and it can still fly, right? Like, okay, but at the same time, it's completely different from it being like in a swamp for 2 days as opposed to potentially a couple years being in salt water. I have a poster of The Last Jedi that shows the X-Wing is pretty much destroyed under the water.
Yeah, no, I'm really interested on why they made that decision, but I do like the callback when they said Red 5 is with us.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of a nice little callback.
The other thing on Ahsoka that it's not so much bad, it was just a little wonky, was when Luke is initially walking out of the fire. I didn't so much notice it the first time because it was at a different theater, smaller screen, but the first time we were closer, it was a bigger screen. It looked a little wonky. It didn't look right. That might just be because spectral ghost and fire don't really work together, but it just for a second or two didn't look right.
I love the reveal. I did like the reveal. She goes to throw Luke's lightsaber,
and he finally takes it. And it's I love that.
That's no way to treat a lightsaber. Like in the previous one, he just tossed it over him.
Exactly.
I did like what they did with Luke. I do. Yeah. Yeah. On how he does everything for a reason, and now, and then him admitting that he's always known that she's been a Palpatine. So is Leia.
And his exile, he admits, was a mistake and everything like that. Like the sequel trilogy, Last Jedi especially. This is one of the points where this one really made me appreciate Last Jedi more, is because what they did with Luke in this one was really good and reinforced Last Jedi. What the sequel trilogy has done with Luke, also Leia, but I'm focusing on Luke here, it made me go from thinking, okay, yeah, Luke's the good guy, whatever, he's kind of whiny, I don't really care about him, to now, he's one of my absolute favorites in the franchise because of the sequel trilogy. He is incredible. Mark does an amazing job as Luke.
I know Mark Hamill doesn't like what Disney has done with Luke and stuff, and that's all right. That is his opinion. And I'm pretty sure we'll get the comments screaming at us for a lot of things with this. But
I mean, even though some of his comments are taken out of context, it's still
everything is taken out of context.
Actors are allowed to dislike something in a movie. That doesn't mean they hate the movie or they hate the character.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Mark Hamill's not complaining about his $1 million he made from The Force Awakens.
John, the king of Star Wars, basically, at this point. John is amazing. Boyega. He said himself he was kind of disappointed with a few things in The Last Jedi, like the fact that he was mostly off on his own, away from, Oscar and Daisy for the majority of the movie. That's not him dumping on the movie or anything. That's just him expressing, things that he, wish could have been a little bit different about the role.
And that's, everyone's allowed to dislike stuff.
Especially the actors. If anyone has a right to dislike a role or something, it's them, honestly.
Yeah. But, this will lead into our next dislike, hating on specific actors for how they portrayed. It's just, it boggles my mind of, how people can be that big of bullies.
And justify it.
Yeah. And Rose being, and I will use this term, being Jar Jar'd. I know when I first told you, you kind of laughed at that, but it does make sense. Jar Jar in The Phantom Menace was supposed to be this bumbling idiot, and that was his role.
And he was one of the most important in the movie.
Yeah. Can you hate Jar Jar? Absolutely. If you think he is complete imbecile, fine. But hating on Ahmed Best for him just doing his job,
being an excited young kid who's helping to pioneer CGI technology, that his work that he helped with is still being relied on today.
Mm-hmm.
Over 20 years later.
Yeah. And the fact is, like, he almost committed suicide multiple times because of it. The kid who played Anakin, he ended his acting career because people are just dumping on him. You can't just hate the fact...
Jake Lloyd is still having, like, mental health issues and things like that because of it. And he was a child.
Child actors sometimes are not the best, but... We can't hate on them specifically. I mean, they chose that they wanted to be a child actor. I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all wanted to do something that, that we've wanted to do, but then, of course, being told, oh, well, you're not good enough, so, what does that do for you?
And then the kid who gets to live his dream, this, 9-year-old kid getting to be in Star Wars... And it came down to him and one other person.
Yeah. Like, it came down to the wire for him. They had to do, like, triple and quadruple auditions just to make sure they got the right character.
Yeah, and that just... This whole situation that happened with the prequels 20 years ago it makes what happened with Kelly and Rose just that much worse.
Yeah. Like, the fact... Like, she deleted her social media because she was getting...
And her career was built off of being in, like, College Humor, which is, on social media, on the internet. That's where she, like, got her start. So that's even worse. Like, and, Ryan gets bullied all the time, and he's able to stay strong. But bullying an actress because you didn't like the character she played, to the point where she said she actually had to go to therapy for everything that happened.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I thought I was disappointed Domhnall Gleeson wasn't on the press tour. He was one of the ones who was very outspoken in support of her. And the fans who showed their support to her through this press tour has just been beautiful. Like, someone actually gave her the Where's Rose book, and it was beautiful. Like, she actually has seen, Star Wars fans, the greater community, does love her and love Rose as a character. And it's just disappointing that her role in this movie, like, Rose was done dirty. She didn't get to do very much. She was mostly just an extra. She had as much screen time as Connix, who also should have had more screen time.
And did she even have any lines? Like,
Connix had, like, 3 lines.
Yeah.
But...
She was more prominent in The Last Jedi than she was in this one.
Exactly. She was the most... Yeah. And it's just... It would have been amazing to have both of them, because in Resistance Reborn, they're talking to each other. They spend a lot of time with Rey and with Leia. At Celebration, when we got the first teaser, Rose wasn't in it at all. We got one behind-the-scenes quotes picture of... Rose talking to Rey that didn't even make it into the movie. Rose has never got to talk to Rey, and that is a relationship people have been wanting to see for over 2 years now. Specifically, one of my favorite people on Twitter, Jacqueline, really wants to see them hook up because they are such great characters and they would play so well together that having Rose and Rey like. It would have been great when everybody was in the cockpit of the Falcon and Rose could have been there, and even, Connix could have been there too, because Billie Lourd, the daughter of Carrie Fisher, should have had some more time in this trilogy. It would have just been so much better. It made sense for Force Awakens. She got a little more time in The Last Jedi, which was great, but she also should have had more time as well as Rose in this movie.
Yeah, and I think that's where it came down to. Again, you're going off the reaction on, people hated Rose, people hated Jar Jar. And so it's like, well, let's kind of like caving to the fans almost. Like we saw with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Yes, the first trailer, was awful. I admit, it was awful.
Yeah.
I still would have seen the movie because of Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, I love as an actor. Sonic the Hedgehog was my favorite game as a kid. And... I still would have seen it. Now that, the company has decided, okay, because of the backlash, we are now going to redesign him. And they brought in one of the original designers from Sega who designed Sonic to come in.
They spent so much money.
$5 million.
Worked their butts off.
Delayed the project. I think it was supposed to be out already. Like, they delayed it.
It should have been out around,
like September or October or something. So delayed it 5-6 months. So, and now that they've come up with this better trailer, and I think, and this is just, if you complained about it, if you posted this is awful and stuff like this, now that they've redesigned it, you should go see it. Put your money where your mouth was.
Exactly.
If you're going to complain and bully a company to make a better trailer, then go see it and support it. Because if they lose that money, what was the point of it?
And no one's ever going to do it again if it's something even worse than this. And I had no intention of seeing Sonic in the first place, but once they redesigned it and actually put in the effort, I thought, well,
you better go see it.
Exactly. So. I'm actually motivated to see it now because the studio cares. Mm-hmm. And it's really irritating when fans, they decide through hatred, through negativity, through threats, things like that, they think they're in the right doing this to someone who's just trying to live their dream and be happy.
Yeah, and now, like, J.J. Abrams has done 2 Star Wars now. He's done Star Trek. He's done with Star Wars now.
Yeah.
Just because of everything that's happened, Do you think that, Kelly Tran is probably going to do another Star Wars role? Probably not.
I wish she would.
I wish she would, too.
But she's not going to. And it makes perfect sense why not. She deserves the world, and she's just getting treated like crap by so many people. Mm-hmm.
So...
moving on to a less serious complaint we have.
That's our little defense rant that we've done.
I was disappointed with pretty much everything about Snap Wexley in this movie.
I remember seeing on Facebook that you called it when we saw the trailer of Poe saying no and a ship crashing. Oh. I remember you calling that was Snap.
Oh yeah. I said that on Twitter too, and Keith, you were so mad that I said that, and I'm making it sound worse than it was, your response. But I apologize then, but those are the rules, and turns out I hate that I was right, but I'm sorry I was right. And it just, Snap's death, I would have been okay with it if we at least had Kare Kun, his wife, in the movies at all. He and Kare and his mother Nora and his stepfather Wedge were primary, like, just about the main characters of Resistance Reborn. He was the only one who had any meaningful time in this trilogy. Yeah, sure, Wedge did come in at the end, and that was cool, but he came in after his stepson died, and probably didn't get to find that out until after the victory celebration. His mother wasn't even in the movie at all, and his wife, who apparently is in the Resistance right beside him all the damn time, wasn't in any of the movies at all. And we didn't even get to see Jess Pava or Sora Linda, who I was really looking forward to seeing for the first time in this movie. Like, we didn't get to see the rest of Black Squadron. It was just Poe and just Snap. None of the people in Snap's life who have been important in the story so far. And it's also really weird how there's... And I know Lego sets don't really, keep much consistency with the movies, though Zori was in the Y-Wing set, and it turns out she was flying a Y-Wing at the end. So the A-Wing, the green striped A-Wing, being flown by Snap in the Lego set, and then him, looking like he's about to get into that same A-Wing at Agent Kloss, and then it turning around and him being in an X-Wing like he had been before, it just seemed kind of inconsistent to me, and I'm not quite sure why they did that with Snap. It would have made more sense to at least have, Kare be there and, just as heartbroken as Poe seeing him go down. At least have somebody there. Yeah, no,
I thought it was a little short. It was quick. It kind of, but Poe's reaction was just...
Poe's reaction was exactly what Poe should have reacted for one of his best friends dying. But we should have also had Kare have the same reaction. But she hasn't been in the movies.
Oh, excuse me.
Which also ties into one of the other things I dislike, which is immediately after. We didn't get enough time with the Galaxy Fleet. If we would have had even another 30 seconds with them coming in and fighting, that would have been even better.
Like you show the trailer of the Millennium Falcon comes in, and with all the different ships that were there. Of course, we had the Ghost ship, and we had a Hammerhead ship, if I recall.
Hammerhead's one of my favorites. We have Nebulons, we have MC-75s like the Profundity from Rogue One. We have so many different types. I noticed a Fang fighter that the Mandalorian Protectors use.
I didn't catch that one. So.
I've been playing a lot of Awakening of the Rebellion. So
I know a lot of people have been saying that the Razor Crest from the Mandalorian's in there, although the picture that they're showing is not the Razor Crest.
And
it looks nothing like it.
To suggest that, so.
I remember watching a YouTube and even him pointing out that it's the Razor Crest, and I had to come going, no, it's not.
Yeah.
He also made a comment with the voices that Ezra Bridger was in it, but it's not. Like, I do want to know what happens to Ezra Bridger, and a lot of theories suggest that he was Snoke to begin with. Some theories
that Ezra and Sabine are Rey's parents. We could spend all day talking about crap Rey's parents theories. I think only one of the crap theories became canon. So better than more. But
I think the best theory for Rey's parents was that she was a Skywalker and a Kenobi.
I honestly, I was kind of worried that they would go into her origin and it would suck. And then The Last Jedi happened and I was relieved and it was beautiful and better than I could have hoped for. And then they turned around and kind of, they picked the one that made at least a little bit of sense.
Yeah, the Rey being a Kenobi and Skywalker theory, it was an interesting theory. It dove into canon as well as EU. And
some of the more disappointing and, as far as I've phrased it, ridiculous and stupid and shouldn't have existed parts of Legends.
The long story short for it was that Obi-Wan's love interest from the Clone Wars, the Duchess Satine, that Corky, the nephew, is actually her son, but they passed it off as her nephew because if Obi-Wan. If it was caught that Obi-Wan had impregnated someone, he might get, kicked out of the order. Although having children,
and that's how he knew Anakin and Padme were a thing. That's actually kind of cool.
Well, again, having romantic relationships, that is against the Jedi Code. But it's nothing about having children is against the Jedi Code. It doesn't say that anywhere.
Well, with exceptions to species like Ki-Adi-Mundi, but other than that.
But Corky is actually the son of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He grows up, he marries somebody, has a daughter named Mara Jade, who then grows up to marry Luke, and then Luke and Mara Jade have a child named Rey. So that's where it does in the U. I thought it was a brilliantly done theory because it could make total sense as it's mostly canon.
A fanfic theory.
It's a fanfic. I like theories that you don't just spout out something and we'll see. It's you actually back things up like Jar Jar as the Sith Lord. I love that theory and I stick by it. I stick by it because they used actual thing. But we're diving into more. That can be saved for another time. The ships, they needed more time with it, and same thing with Lando. He wasn't in it enough.
I would have loved to. I know it would technically spoil the second half of Resistance Season 2, but if we would have seen maybe the Colossus or at least the Fireball, or hear Christopher Sean's voice, because I love Christopher Sean. He's amazing. Or at least even seen one of the aces in the background. That would have been enough, I think. We got the Ghost, and that was perfect. It was beautiful.
Yeah, we've seen now the Ghost in Rogue One, and we've seen it in an episode.
Exactly. It's so cool.
And see, that's the thing about these cartoons. They've made stuff that has
made the jump.
Have made the jump.
Like Boba Fett. He was originally in the Holiday Special, and Saw Gerrera. He was introduced in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and they've now making the big theory. Yes, but then, of course, who I would really like to see in the theory, would have been Hondo. And, Hondo would have been...
We know he's active at the time.
Yeah, Hondo would have been extremely old, but I think if we got at least some sort of indication that he was part of that battle, that would have just made my day, because Hondo is one of my favorite my favorite characters from Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And same with Cad Bane. Like, we know in a deleted scene of Cad Bane's demise.
Not deleted, it was unfinished.
Yeah, unfinished, yes. Yeah. And I hope they do something like that for Season 7 of Clone Wars. I'm really looking forward to it.
But yeah, the other death that I thought was ridiculous, I don't know if I mentioned it, Ben's death. 20 minutes after Ben-demption, which has been built up through the entirety of the trilogy and was better built and better executed than Vader turning. I know I'm going to get stabbed for that. I think Ben Solo, his journey was one of the best parts of this trilogy, despite it ending in a way that I thought was ridiculous. What little we got of him was amazing, like him jumping down, the ow, and the little shrug he gives to the Knights when he gets his saber. Redeemed Ben was so good, and you can tell he wasn't really supposed to die at the end there. It didn't make much sense. Why
he gave his last life to save Rey.
And it just would have been so much better if that's when we saw Leia, she transcends, and it would have been the power that Leia gave to Ben to save him would have gone and saved Rey as well. Mm-hmm. And then Ben and Rey could have, Reylo could have been a happily ever after ship instead of a tragic one. Mm-hmm. Which tragic ships are the best, but still, it just... And the entirety of the time, it's, I know my son's alive, no one's ever really gone, your son is dead, no, Kylo Ren is dead, my son is alive. 20 minutes later, no, your son's also dead. And he didn't even show up at the end with Luke and Leia's Force Ghosts. That would have been a great time to see him as well, but he wasn't even there. Mm-hmm. And I get he's not really a Skywalker by name, but neither is Leia, so...
Yeah, only Luke is.
He should have been there with them.
Yeah, and the ending of, my name is Rey, and that's how she's been all this whole time. Yeah. And then it's like, Rey who? Now it's like, well, okay, we know it's Rey Palpatine.
But because that's the most hated name in the galaxy...
Yeah, she takes on Skywalker at the ranch, which... I still don't know why she went there.
Thematically, it was nice that it ended pretty much where it began, but at the same
time...
That
is true. 42 years later.
It made no sense for Rey to go there.
No.
Absolutely no sense.
I mean, burying the lightsabers,
That was nice.
That was a nice touch. I understand burying Luke's lightsaber there, because that's where he grew up, but burying Leia's, you can't really bury it on Alderaan, because, Spoiler alert!
The closest thing to the Skywalker family home. So it did sort of make sense, but it made no sense for Rey to be there herself and to go there and with the Falcon and with BB-8 because, I guess it's an ending of, I guess life goes on for her.
Yeah. And this can probably be explained in either a visual dictionary, the novelization maybe. I'm waiting for that.
I'm really hoping for the novelization. The Last Jedi novelization was amazing, but the author...
Fantastic, yeah.
I forgot the name, but she is a really good author doing the Rise of Skywalker one. I have a real lot of high hopes for her with the novelization. There are... some things that need explaining. There are some that I would like explaining.
And you can't explain everything that happens in a person's mind, and that's what I think where the books come in.
It's not reasonable to expect that.
But
the books help.
So, so I think we'll get to the overall rating. I mean, it's been quite a while since we've been talking the good, we've been talking the bad. Now I think the overall rating, I give it a 4 out of 5.
Mine's close. I'd rather, go out of 10s than 5s.
Okay,
it gives me more,
then
accuracy.
8 out of 10 would be.
Yeah. I would do 7 out of 10 because, again, I did really like it. It's just, maybe 6.5 out of 10. I'm not quite sure about that, but generally around 7 because...
Yeah, because there were some parts that you didn't like.
The things I didn't like are... Some of them I will admit are nitpicks. Others are, this was really, I did not like these at all. Mm-hmm. But what I did like and what I loved, I really liked and loved. They were great.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my reasons were it had a really great story. It had a flowing thing. It was constantly moving. Like, you know, all the different jumps that we got to see. You know, that's never been done at all. We've always just seen, you know, one jump go, but, you know, Poe is just constantly jumping.
The skipping was so cool.
It was really visually cool. And then, of course, you know, they land, of course, the Falcon's on fire. And it's like,
that whole interaction was
it's
great.
like, what do you mean the Falcon's on fire? And then it's like, what happened to my droid? No, you tell me what happened first. Like, they're arguing with
He's
each other.
not on fire. Yeah, what's left of him isn't. Like, you're not helping, Poe.
So,
oh, man.
But yeah, and it's definitely, I know you've seen it a second time. I've only seen it once. But it's definitely worth a second or even a third take.
The Last Jedi is the most rewatchable. This one, it might need a bit more time before people start to, like, give it more. Mm-hmm. But I think it does warrant a second, third, like, a couple extra viewings. Because I have seen a few people who they did like it more on the second viewing. And I think someone else on Twitter did actually end up by the, like, fourth or fifth. They were like, okay, I liked it this time. But it does take a while for people to come around. And if you do give it a chance, even if it's a while before you, like, pick up the physical or it comes on Disney+.
Yeah, and if you want to wait for Disney+, that's okay.
Give it another chance, I think.
Yeah.
Because it is a very good movie. It is really good. But it is very flawed.
Yeah.
And that's...
And even like... Because I got really, really excited, especially when the ships all came in. And at the very end, as everyone's kind of like leaving, of course, we sat down for a little bit. Someone in front of me just turned around and said, you know, you being excited about this made me excited.
And that's what I love about, like, when a movie comes right out, going to the city and watching it.
Yeah.
It's so much more fun, and the fans are there.
Well, yeah, and even, like, when I saw Solo, and, of course, the big reveal that it was Darth Maul, I was, like, for 15 minutes, like, almost screaming.
Oh, man.
And, you know,
I saw it with some of my friends, and I was, like, patting him on the arm, like, it's, and he's like, what? Who is it? As soon as we heard Sam Witwer's voice, I was like, oh, my God. And he's like, what is it? It's, and then we see his face, and he's like, oh, wow. And it's like, yeah.
Like, and, you know, of course, man. When I saw it, I had, you know, grandparents taking their kids to it. So, of course, they're wondering why I'm getting excited. And even in Rogue One, when I saw it in theater, I had a little kid in front of me turning around every time I got really excited over the, like, little Easter eggs. And he's going, why is this adult being so excited over this? It's like, because I'm here to enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I came in with no expectations. Like, I wasn't expecting anything. I'm just going, let's go in, see what happens.
And I want to say something that I didn't mention earlier. At the Reylo kiss, when it finally happened, there was a kid in front of us who just quietly said, ew, and caused all of our row to just break out laughing. It was so funny.
But, I mean, to me, that was unexpected. I was not expecting them to kiss.
It would have been unexpected for them not to at this point. Like, so. It was obvious it was going to happen. But one thing that I forgot to mention earlier about the saber fight on the Death Star wreckage, when Rey is healing Kylo, his scar goes away.
I didn't notice that.
Oh, yeah. It happens.
Oh.
He doesn't have the scar for the rest of it. It's gone. The wound she herself inflicted on him, both wounds, she heals away. It was amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm picturing. Yeah. Now I'm seeing. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
That is worth a second look. I didn't even catch that. Good on you.
I didn't even notice until someone on Twitter said it, and then it's like, okay, well I'm seeing it again tonight. Like, and I paid attention to it. It happened.
Wow.
It was great.
So yeah, that's basically it. With this being the last one, so we've decided to rank.
Last of the Skywalker saga, at least.
Last of the Skywalker, yes. We've decided to rank our ones in order of episode 1 to 9, and a bonus of the other 4, and you'll see why I'm saying 4 in a second, for our films being in order. I mean, for me, my order was Revenge of the Sith being my all-time favorite. Yes, I grew up watching the prequels, and not the original, but I remember watching Revenge of the Sith at least 3 times in the theater, and of course this is when I was a kid, being in the very, very front row, and I mean you are basically looking straight up, watching that Anakin and Obi-Wan fight so close.
Oh man!
As a 10-year-old kid was the best. So yeah, I rank that as first. My second is Rise of Skywalker. Third is The Empire Strikes Back. For me, fourth is Last Jedi. Attack of the Clones is fifth. Force Awakens 6. Phantom Menace is 7. New Hope is 8. And Return of the Jedi is 9. I'm probably going to get hate for my order.
Everybody gets hate for their order.
Exactly. But everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So, if you don't like that order, then, put down in the comments of what order you like. And, we'll probably and give reasonings for it as well. I mean, yes, Phantom Menace, I rank it higher than New Hope because of how much has changed for the New Hope with every release. Like, they had the original, then of course the remastered it, they changed the scene.
And I defend the special editions for the most part because it's not as big of a deal as people say, I think. But
no, I know. Han shot first, obviously, but then, of course, Disney Plus comes out, and they had to rework the scene by having Greedo saying McClunky now.
And the thing is, a lot of people have muted McClunky on Twitter, but you can't mute audio, so ha ha ha. Oh, wait, you can.
Yeah, no, and,
McClunky.
So to me, it makes sense. And I mean, the Return of the Jedi. It is I do enjoy these films. Like, I enjoy all the Star Wars. It's just I enjoy some of them better. And as the bonus for the other 4 films, Rogue One is, and this is like not episode related films, but Rogue One is my favorite. And then you got Solo second. Clone Wars, the cartoon. Yes, that was a full length movie. It was released in theaters. And then the 4th one is the holiday special, obviously. I mean, it is enjoyable. It's fun to laugh at. I thoroughly actually enjoy it. I've seen it a couple times.
I still haven't got a chance to watch it.
Really?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube somewhere.
It is. Chewbacca having a family and stuff. I can't remember if the holiday special is canon or not, but having a child.
Oh God!
But
obviously not.
But the child, just turning
he
and
does
watching.
Have a family, but
yeah. But the child watching TV, and literally you spend 20-30 minutes watching the Wookiees talk, and there's no subtitles, so it's literally. It's so funny because now you get to decide, what are they actually saying? So it's almost like watching Mr. Bean, almost.
That's funny.
I'm not sure if you had your list or not.
My ranking is a little bit of a different style.
I definitely know what your number 1 is.
Yeah, everybody knows.
At this, if you haven't figured out what his number 1 is...
I've got a top 4 or 5, and then everything else just sort of exists in a ball of... I love them.
6. It's all tied for 6.
I love them all, but I just like these other ones more than the others. So, for me, number 1 is obviously The Last
Jedi, yep.
Because I never shut up about it. And just the other day, actually, I think it was earlier today, I saw something that I still haven't noticed, is Rey training with that rock, swinging her saber, mirrors how Kylo is attacking Luke's projection. Like, even 2 years later, there are still things people are finding out about this movie, and just all of the layers and everything about this movie. With the only things that I don't really like as much are just what was set up in The Force Awakens. A few things like it basically being the Rebellion 2.0 and the Empire 2.0. Those were set up in The Force Awakens, so it's not so much this movie's fault. But there's still things that happened in the movie that are just kind of like, but those are the closest things to legit I didn't like about those movies are just kind of like, they're not directly his fault. So, Last Jedi, as close to perfect as a Star Wars movie can be, I think. Second, Rogue One. It's so good. The Battle of Scarif is... just I put it on every few days and just watch the X-Wings come in and General Merrick his laugh as everybody's cheering and pointing at the X-Wings, and for Jedha as they're charging out of the U-Wings. are beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
One of the best ships in the franchise. That's where we saw the Ghost and Chopper and hearing General Syndulla mentioned. Seeing Bail Organa again and Mon Mothma again.
Which Mon Mothma was acted
by Genevieve O'Reilly, I think her name is.
Who actually was in the Revenge of the Sith. Now,
the
most of her scenes were deleted scenes.
It was still her.
And if you go back and watch deleted scenes for Episode 2 and Episode 3, they made the story better.
Oh, yeah. More depth,
especially with Padme's history.
And the politics, which, a lot of people don't like about the prequels, but I think that's one of the reasons why.
And even in Clone Wars, they dive in, like, there's one episode completely designed to politics on
more than one, actually.
More than one, but one specifically about how this war was affecting not only people who are part of the war, but the entire galaxy itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the fact is, you had the Separatists, and they weren't necessarily bad people.
If anything, they were the good guys.
Yeah.
When you think about it. But that ties into why Revenge of the Sith is my third favorite. Is because, that brought everything to its breaking point, and the novelization made me love the Battle of Coruscant even more with, though this is the end of the Age of Heroes, it has saved its best for last, because, 2 Jedi fighters is enough, and it's the Battle of Coruscant is so cool, and if we could have seen it in the Clone Wars, it would have been amazing.
Can't wait for that, because I do know that with the Siege of Mandalore happening, and we know that based on the trailers, we know that the Bad Batch is happening, which I'm so excited for.
Oh, yeah.
We know that we're going to get a couple episodes of Ahsoka diving down into what it's like in the underworld. And they even made it a few times where the underworld, even though Coruscant is this nice, beautiful planet.
Like 1313 and all those other floors.
Yeah, even like level 10 and stuff. Like,
I think under level 200 or something is uninhabitable, if I'm remembering right. There's a solid chunk of the planet for the floors that are uninhabitable.
Yeah, but the fact is that
it's a city planet,
Coruscant itself, it's beautiful, and it's referenced quite a bit. Even Syndulla, when what's that planet? Ryloth is being under attack.
Cham Syndulla talking about you being in your palace in Coruscant while we're here protecting our homes, and
it just even though that's Coruscant's this nice planet, it's not all pretty and bells. So
it's a city. Cities have a lot of good and a lot of bad. It can be pretty at times, specifically nighttime in the skylines, but whole lot of bad stuff happens in the city.
And I do think for season 7 they are going to dive into more of it, and the fact is
civilian life in Coruscant. But Revenge of the Sith number 3 for several reasons, even beyond the Battle of Coruscant. The clones, so cool. We see the AT-OT, the A6 Juggernaut, AT-RTs. I'm just naming vehicles. The clone airbornes that fighting with the 212th on Utapau. Utapau just being such a cool planet.
General Grievous.
Grievous being just the coolest thing ever as a 7-year-old kid when I was in 2nd grade when Revenge of the Sith came out. The 2D Clone Wars really helped hype up Revenge of the Sith as it was supposed to. Grievous was crazy cool in that show. He was even cooler in Revenge of the Sith. We had I think it was a DVD, because the others were VHSs, Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace, we had VHS, but we finally got a DVD for Revenge of the Sith. We would just constantly restart the scene where Obi-Wan jumps down, hello there, kill him with the Magna Guards, crushes them all, and then just the spinning, the noise, the look of it, the sparks flying everywhere.
That was
one of the coolest parts of the franchise.
That was Attack of the Clones for me. I remember it just as a kid having the nice surround sound system. Of course, you're thinking it's the coolest thing ever.
The seismic charges.
But wanting to go outside and play hockey and stuff, because we're Canadians here, but wanting to really watch that. So I remember my just turning it on to straight to the arena battle, when Mace Windu shows up, and all the lightsabers and stuff, and then going outside but cranking it up so we can still hear it. And pretty sure my parents hated that half the time, so we only did it when they weren't home.
Oh, you should have been a fifth grade kid when the Clone Wars was coming out, because when season 1 of the Clone Wars was coming out, I was just getting into middle school. Clone Wars really, put me through middle school, if I'm being honest. But every Friday, it would air at 3:30. My mom would pick me and my brothers up from school, and I'd be, ready to get home, faster, 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 because they could have aired it at 4 and we wouldn't have had to rush. But because it was 3:30, she'd unlock the door, I'd sprint down to the TV in the basement, crank up the volume, and then just... and you'd hear my mom stomping on the floor above, turn that down. The Clone Wars was one of the best parts of Star Wars, and Revenge of the Sith, it was made even better by the Clone Wars because you get attached to all the Jedi, like Kit Fisto.
The Smiling Jedi, as he was well known for, before he was named Kit Fisto.
Yeah, Kit Fisto. Ki-Adi-Mundi was kind of a jerk, but I liked him in the Geonosis episodes. Windu, Luminar, Adi Gallia, we mentioned them earlier, but so many of them, and their tragic endings, especially Plo Koon, their tragic endings in Revenge of the Sith are made even more emotional the first time you watch Revenge of the Sith after watching through the Clone Wars.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And then it really gets into, why would the clones turn on them so easily? And of course, Clone Wars Lost Missions.
The inhibitor chips had is an amazing reason, I think.
Oh, yeah. And, and it really shows the fact that, to point up of Anakin's statement in Revenge of the Sith, from my point of view, the Jedi evil, which... in some terms, he's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jedi even knew about how Darth Tyrannus, as they were told, being Count Dooku, and understanding why would the Sith provide us an army, and they're so confused. But they decided
just go
to
with it because they don't have a choice.
And leave it. And going, we shouldn't tell anybody this.
And then when they find out about, I think it was after Fives, loses life, probably the saddest part of the entire series.
Or Echo.
Oh, man. But that's later,
Yeah.
But they go back to the council, and they're talking about it, and it's like, well, the clones have proven themselves valiant, and honest, honorable men, we have no choice but to just play along until we figure out what's going on. The Clone Wars... I know it's not very fair, but the Clone Wars is one of the biggest reasons why Revenge of the Sith is in my top 3. Number 4 is A New Hope, because it's A New Hope. It's the classic. There's nothing I could say that hasn't been said in the past 42 years. But, Lego Star Wars 2 on the GameCube was the big reason why I knew what happened in the original trilogy until we got the VHSs as a kid. And then... yeah, the prequels for the longest time was most of Star Wars to me because those were the actual movies we had, but we had the GameCube for the original trilogy until I got to watch them through. A New Hope was still my favorite one. Leia is just badass as all, everything. Luke, he's kind of whiny, but he's the good guy. He's a nice guy. It's a classic story of, the farm boy getting help from the wizard to save the princess from the Dark Knight.
Medieval terms.
Exactly. And there's the reluctant hero and his, furry friend sidekick who are instrumental along the way. It's classic.
Lone Star and Barf.
Running from Pizza the Hut. Oh man, I just wish we could have had ludicrous speed instead of, hyperspace. That would have been way more fun. But yeah. Number 5 is Spaceballs. I'm kidding. I think number 5 might be The Force Awakens because going into The Rise of Skywalker, I was saying constantly, if it's even half as good as Force Awakens, the sequel trilogy will be, in my opinion, the best trilogy in all of Star Wars. And The Force Awakens, say what you will, it's objectively, it's a point you can't argue. It did take a lot from A New Hope.
It did.
It's the first movie in about 10 years, I think, save for Clone Wars, but it's the first major Star Wars movie in 10 years. It's to reignite that spark of what people love about Star Wars. The excitement, the wonder, the trailer of everyone thinking Finn is a Jedi and then it turning out him not to be, only so he can be Force sensitive in Rise of Skywalker, which, people have already mentioned. But, Force Awakens, yeah, it did a lot of the same things A New Hope did, but at the same time, there were a lot of risks it took. Namely, Luke, one of the greatest heroes in fiction, went off into self-imposed exile. He blamed himself for the son of two of the most iconic heroes in fiction, other than Luke. Mm-hmm. The son of Han and Leia. He was, pretty much the main bad guy of The Force Awakens. That was a huge risk that they took doing that.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Like, The Force Awakens, even when you take away that, and it still has, the things it technically stole from A New Hope, but even with those, it's still a really good movie. And then, yeah, so that's my top 5. Everything else I do love. I could talk for hours about any one of these movies, but they're all just sort of in a plane of, I do love them, they're amazing, but these are my top 5. Mm-hmm. So I know that's a bit of a cop-out for the other half of the list, but
that's perfectly all right, because even when I was making my order, it was like, okay, I really like them all. I don't think, there's some
it's hard ranking them.
It was really, really hard ranking them. With Phantom Menace, at one point I had it as 9. It was like, well, actually, I like the pod racing scene better than what Return of the Jedi had, so I'm going to move it up. Yeah. Well, actually, it's a little bit better and my reasoning for New Hope lower is because of all the constant changes every time there's a new release for it.
Yeah.
And just, stick with the originals. Like, I understand, it's 77, 79, and 81, or 81. Either way, it's late 70s, early 80s. Obviously, with remasters, you're going to change new things. Because I do remember, as a kid, in Episode 6, the whole, dance scene with the one main creature
Sice noodles and Jedi rocks. I love that.
And I
you
remember...
don't get that in the special editions. That's why it's better.
I remember the puppeteers of it, actually, as a kid. Because, even though my dad wasn't a huge Star Wars fan, he still enjoyed it. And he would show me the originals. And I remember seeing the difference, and I'm going, why would they change it?
And the thing is the special editions did do a lot of good. You actually see the landscape and the outer world of Bespin as they're running around Cloud City. It used to be just corridors, but they actually had windows and background.
Mm-hmm. I got the 6 DVD special edition. I loved as a kid because I wanted to be a film editor. Growing up and doing the behind the scenes stuff, the tragedy of Phantom Menace. The day before they were supposed to do the big pod racing reveal, they had built all the different pod racers.
I think I heard about this.
And there was a huge storm that came in and actually destroyed 75% of it.
Yeah.
They had to redesign it all.
Yeah.
Stuff like that you don't know unless you watch the behind the scenes, and that's what I love.
Or listen to podcasts.
Or listen to podcasts too, yeah. So, stuff like that. I loved watching behind the scenes, and that's where I knew, or saw the difference, and I've seen the before and I've seen the after. So, yes, some of the changes were good, but New Hope kept getting changed, especially this one scene. And that will go down in history as the most compared scene. Han shot first. No, Greedo shot first.
McClunky.
Yeah. And if you look really closely, for the Greedo shooting as well, Han does this little, neck twitch. And it's just, it's absurd to me.
Digital editing, really, you could tell it had a long way to go at that point.
Yeah.
But one thing
but I did watch the Disney Plus. He still does the head twitch. They didn't redesign it. They just added the extra scenes. So
another thing that's better about the special editions than Return of the Jedi is Victory Celebration. Way, way, way better than Yub Nub.
Yeah.
I will forever say that.
I remember doing a Star Wars trivia night, and, my team got this right, but you can also kind of disagree. The last word said in Return of the Jedi was, "He's my brother." that is technically the last line said. But if you watch the special edition, it goes to Naboo. You see a bunch of Gungans.
We saw free.
They say that. So
I love the Gungans. Oh man, like Jar Jar especially, but Gungans in general, love them all. Yeah, one of my favorite species.
So,
Victory Celebration. I think in the movie, beautiful. One of the best songs in the original trilogy, and that's saying something. I know. It makes sense for Yub Nub to be what they played during the celebration, but Victory Celebration makes more sense for the movie.
But I mean, you kind of look at it. You know, Ewoks are supposed to be these cuddly little teddy bears, but the helmets they bash for drums are empty.
I think it was explained away as they were taken as prisoner. So I can't remember where I heard that, but I think that's what it was.
But I mean, there's a bunch of food. Where on earth did they get all the food? I mean, they were gonna cook Han, Chewie, and Luke.
Yeah,
so
it's fun to think about, but yeah, I think it was
Ewoks
just they're the
not
good guys. They took prisoners. Yeah.
So
well, I mean, there is Ewok hunt mode in Battlefront, and they finally made Ewoks scary in that. It is actually.
I gotta
scary.
try that.
It's like Slender with teddy bears.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
But I think with that, I think we've probably gone on long enough. It's supposed to be a review of Skywalker, or Rise of Skywalker, but it turned into
anything we wanted.
Anything we wanted. And that's kind of like what these podcasts are probably going to be like most of the time. We'll kind of think of a topic, then we just go on from there. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and comment down below. Keep comments to civil, like we've said before, and we've said it throughout. These are just our opinions, and this is how we think. Obviously, both Tristan and I have different, expectations, and we have different lists, but we're still best of buds. We don't hate each other for it. So, as one famous actor, great Tommy Wiseau, had said, if everyone in the world loved each other, the world would be a better place. Just... Everyone's entitled to their opinions. Feel free to disagree with us.
And like an even greater actress said, saving what we love.
Yep.
I'm kidding. No. But seriously, Kelly does deserve the world.
Yeah. So keep your comments civil. Tend to disagree. It's good to have arguments that are...
Not so much arguments, but... honest debate.
Yeah, honest debate.
That's good.
An argument is...
It really boils down to what it's about that I think arguments are justified.
An argument is a series of points to get across your main objective, not just saying, no, it isn't, yes, it is.
Yeah. And there are certain things that are taken as, this is just honest criticism. Nah. Stay away from that kind of stuff. Just, if it's the movie itself, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just don't be a jerk.
Yeah,
that's all.
And if you've gone to this point and you haven't seen Rise of Skywalker, well, we basically explained the entire movie for you. So
out of order, because that's how my brain works.
That's how most people's brains work, I think. But yeah, hope you.
Ooh, shiny.
Hope you enjoyed it. This is a KT podcast where we talk the ins and outs of everything about Star Wars. I'm Chaos.
I'm Tristan. You can follow me on Twitter at CT_irons, but be prepared for a lot of, Oscar Isaac thirst.
And I don't have Twitter, but I do have Facebook. It's just Chaos1391. It's my YouTube channel as well. So follow me on Twitter, or not Twitter, follow me on Facebook, follow me on YouTube.
Follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, follow him on Twitter. We'll try and do these as often as we can. Of course, we got our own lives. So this is kind of the first podcast, kind of getting to know what you think. We're calling it KT Podcast for now.
I got a few ideas floating around, but it might be a bit before we decide on an official name.
If you want to, come up with your own suggestions, and we'll might take it into consideration.
I think Wolfpack Dispatch is pretty cool. That might be taken, though. There are a ton of Star Wars podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why KT, Chaos and Tristan. So, with that being said, we're signing off. We hope to see you guys. Well, we hope to do another one very soon. Think of topics you want us to talk about, and we'll gladly talk about them.
And if you made it this far, thank you for listening to my annoying voice.
Thank you for listening to us ramble on.
Oh, yeah.
So, we both have ADHD, I think, so we just kind of...
there's something undiagnosed in my head.
So, we could talk about The Mandalorian, we could talk about Clone Wars, Rebels even.
There's a lot we could talk about. Star Wars is huge.
Yep, and, talking about EU stuff, so... with that being said, we're signing out, and we'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Have a good day. Have a good night. Stuff like that.
Good morning.
Or good morning. Catch you later.